This is the story of how the biggest esport in the world was nearly ruined and sabotaged by its own creator. This is the story of patch 6.83, a version of Dota that will live in infamy. Hello everyone and welcome to Pro Guides. My name is Moxie and today we're learning about the bizarre tale of ho-ho-ha-ha, the unholy spinity rubber band Dota, or as the game designer IceFrog called it, 6.83. This patch left lasting damage on Dota 2, and only this past year has IceFrog started deworking some of the last remaining cancerous mechanics or hero reworks from this dark age. Before we begin, I have the question of the day for you. Play during 6.83? Do you remember it? And if so, what were your feelings about the patch? Personally, I'm still scarred for life by it. Before we understand 6.83, we must first understand 6.82 and the dangerous framework it laid. The smaller patch was made to address the meta of TI4 from earlier in 2014. TI4 was unique in that it had a big surprise meta. Usually, the TI patch is heavily explored and out for several months before the big event. TI4 was no exception. This patch had been out for a long time, and the broken heroes like Lycan, Faceless Void, Skywrath Mage, and Tidehunter were globally recognized. But in a surprise meta tornado that has not since been repeated, China completely shocked the other teams when busting out dedicated push strategies with Venomancer, Nature's Prophet, Timbersaw, Razor, and Death Prophet carries. Heroes like Razor and Death Prophet were previously seen as pup stompers only, but as the event progressed, you either adapted or you died. Evil Geniuses, who was the only Western team to finish top 4, also began running Death Prophet Razor cores, and slower supports like Bane and Aya were replaced in favor of Shadow Shamans and Enigmas. While the development of the event's meta was exciting, the finals are universally regarded as the worst ever in Dota 2 history. The average game length was 20 minutes flat. The whole best of 5 was over in 80 minutes. Newbie and Vici Gaming exchanged stomps in which the leads never once changed. The only two traditional carries picked up were Morphling and Lifestealer. They were both promptly stomped and lost. You could say that Alchemist, who ended up being a surprise meta development, was a traditional carry, except it was being played as offlane and literally didn't even level Greevil's Greed once. It solely existed to build mech and max Acid Spray, which is probably the best skill in the game at the time to depush safely. Any other methods of playing Alchemist resulted in the hilarious clip of Arteezy buying Midas while getting Rax and then immediately dying to Leshreq. 6.82 came down hard on the TI4 finals meta. It nerfed all the problem heroes and started strengthening Glyph of Fortification towards what it is today. During TI4, Glyph only lasted 5 seconds and didn't protect creeps and didn't get refreshed upon tier 1 destruction. 6.82 reworked the gold and XP bounty formulas and added bounty runes. In fact, it was actually 6.82 and not 6.83 that created the majority of the artificial comeback mechanics, but the perfect storm of imbalance was still brewing. December 2014. The Shifting Snows update is released with 6.83. The Unholy Spinity refers to the trio of Juggernaut, Troll Warlord, and Axe. All three of these heroes reached record-breaking levels of brokenness. Juggernaut gained 6 agility along with 6 damage and had his crit, which was a double damage during those days, increased by 5% probability at all levels. Think about that. An agility carry gaining 6 agi at level 1 along with the crit buff, which is essentially 5% damage increase at all stages of the game. When was the last time a carry got a buff that big? It's been a long time. And back then, Jug's Omnislash had a way longer cast range and mini stunned on impact, so you could cancel TPs. Troll technically didn't get a buff, he got a bug fix. The fix was that the Fervor wasn't granting the first stack bonus. Okay, so this amounted to a 34 attack speed buff. That's kind of a massive buff. I get it's a bug fix, but maybe something shouldn't be nerfed to compensate? Maybe more insane than this, though, was the fact that melee form granted 15 damage. So yeah, you're casually having 70 damage on a carry at level 1, and then by level 2, you have a ton of attack speed too. There was also an exploit that pro trolls used to totally obliterate any lane. You could buy an Orb of Venom, and then switch to melee form while your ranged projectile was flying. The target would then be affected by melee Venom stats despite the attack having been ranged. This was back when Orb of Venom was much stronger. Axe completed the Unholy Spinity. The buffs he received were to Battle Hunger, which increased the DPS, lowered the mana cost, and increased the move speed bonus in slow. In 6.82, he also had his spin chance up from 17% to 20%, which means you got 15% more spins in total. Also, level 1 spin was way better than it is today. Another big aspect I don't hear discussed enough was that melee range was 128 until 7.0. Now it's 150 units. The lower attack range back then was amazing for Axe and meant enemies had to be much closer to the creep wave. Items like Blade Mail, Crimson, BKB, Blink Dagger, and Tranquils were all better back then too. Axe doesn't care about BKB or the magic immunity from Jug Spin, so on top of being a villain, Axe was also in part a hero against the other two. His Culling Blade chopped at a higher HP totals back then, and his axe was actually good compared to the trash that it is today. It used to increase his chop threshold greatly. Supports could be culled at half HP so easily. Ho ho ha ha. This laughter. That's vile cackles enough to induce a cold sweat in any veteran Dota player. Ho ho ha ha on the surface is just a simple sniper voice line, but it morphed into a calling card for the degeneracy that was 6.83. Sniper was perhaps one of the most overpowered heroes of the patch. Certainly he had hit the hardest with nerfs after the patch. Sniper got one of the biggest buffs of all time. His shrapnel just got 3 charges. It went from 1 to 3, just like that. The only downside was it didn't damage towers anymore, but who cares? Your spell just got 3 times stronger. Except it was probably even more than 3 times stronger because the mana cost was reduced to compensate and the duration even got increased. Think about that. Was Sniper bad before? Yeah, sure. But in pro games, not in pubs. Sniper has always been good in the trench. The trench after this buff was a true hellscape of snipers. Sniper became the most picked hero in the game, surpassing Pudge by a lot, who, by the way, is almost never surpassed as the most popular hero in the game. August of 2015, Combo Wakamaka uploads one of the most popular meme videos in the history of Dota 2, the Sniper Plague. In the video, our protagonist is faced with an enemy sniper and his friends stack when only counter picks. The end result? Sniper still won. Just as problematic as the buffs themselves was the item balance pertaining to these heroes. It was simple. Phase Boots, Ring of Aquila, Mask of Madness, SNY, Scotty, then any big pure damage items and or a BKB. All of these items were hugely overtuned, synergistic, and allowed for infinite kiting even through magic immunity. During this patch, SNY gave way more movement speed and instead of having status resistance, gave a chance for your attacks to maim, which was like a BKB piercing slow. The biggest issue still was that items like Glimmer Cape and Aeon Disc didn't exist yet, and position 5 and 4 were still poor back during those days. So yeah, any support was instantly dead to the infamous 4. What was the support of choice, you asked, during this patch? Lion. Lion was actually almost as popular as these 4. He received a freakishly huge 7 attack damage buff with no downside among some other smaller buffs. The last aspect of 6.83 is what defined the pro metagame more so than anything else. We're talking about rubber banding artificial comebacks and how it nearly ruined the competitive scene. Having seen nothing even remotely close to a comeback in the final days of TI4, IceFrog implemented formulas to ensure that any kill obtained by the disadvantaged team would yield much greater rewards. This is actually fine, even great on the surface. There should be comeback mechanics in Dota, or else an advantage today creates a greater advantage tomorrow. The problem with the initial formulas was that they kicked in immediately with any amount of lead. So if you were only ahead by 1k gold, your deaths were about 40% worse just because you were ahead by any amount. The greater the lead, the more outlandish the rewards became. A 10k lead could be gone in a single lost team fight, and your XP advantage, which was probably smaller than the gold lead because maybe you built the gold lead by 5 manning down towers and team fighting, would be reversed. The whole enemy team could gain 2 levels or more each. This formula punished the delicate balancing of hero timings. Naturally, a hero like Undying was supposed to be great early and generate an advantage in the lanes. Now later game arrives and your hero is falling off, yet you're still at a net worth advantage. You might not even be ahead in win percentage because your heroes are worse in the late game, but none of that mattered to the formula. Have a gold lead? If you even throw one fight, you're at risk of losing it all. Supporting was very bizarre during this era. On the winning team, you were the poorest hero and you still gave up a big bounty for dying. This is because the multipliers for the individual net worth were not in place yet. Anyone on the winning team gave up a big bounty. On the team that was behind, you were encouraged to play loose and dangerous. If you died, so what? You barely gave up anything, and you even increased the enemy's lead so that your cores can get more from kills later. If you were really good, you even fed an opponent a killing spree. Sprees gave up 3 times as much gold as they do today. This led to a boring high ground defense meta. And you know who's the king of high ground? Sniper. Picking weak lanes was fine, even encouraged so that you could get out of the lanes with a disadvantage and reap higher rewards. The air quotes winning team would amass a great advantage before even thinking about going high ground to prevent throws. This made pro gameplay very repetitive and boring to watch. Thanks as always for watching. We hope you enjoyed this little history documentary. Did you play during this patch, and what are your memories of it? Like, subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified of the new stuff we have coming out. Enjoy your day, and be thankful that at least no patch can get as stale as 6.83.